So to grow up the way that I did, the second of 4 children to teenage parents in the 15th poorest county in the country, to not only get a full scholarship to a top university and then go to grad school for science and go start my PhD in science and be in this position where I feel safe. I don't feel like I'm going to starve or that my kids are going to starve, which is something I didn't have as a child. It means a lot. And I only have that because the people of Florida gave it to me. I wouldn't have it without them. That's why I never had a problem helping pay people's power bills, because the people of Florida had my back, they supported me, and now they need some of it back. So my background before COVID, before I was famous for anything, was actually in climatology. So I was a coastal scientist, and I dedicated my career and my education to understanding how the ocean and the coast interact with each other. And I did that because I went through Hurricane Katrina when I was 16 years old. I had family who passed away during Hurricane Katrina when I was 16 years old. I saw this power that the earth can push onto people at any given moment, and there's no bomb that's going to stop it. There's no wall that you can build to stop it. It's something you have to face, something you have to prepare for, plan for, respond to. And I went into emergency response because I saw what happened, and I wanted to make sure that what happened during Katrina never happened anywhere else ever again. And that wasn't my first or only brush with natural disaster. I seem to be a magnet for those. My family lost their home in 2020 on Easter Day when 2 EF4 tornadoes went parallel right on top of their house. It killed my neighbor Roger. It killed 2 of our neighbors down the street. It killed a man who pulled over in his car to try to seek refuge, and it looked like a bomb had gone off in my parents' house. It was just blown up. And there was no warning. They lived in what was called a radar gap. So there are spots of the country that there's no active radar. And that makes it so that you could have a tornado on the ground a mile wide for a certain distance and no one know it's there. After it touched down, it was about 2 minutes before it was on top of their house. So even if it had been picked up, it would have been very difficult to get a warning system out. So one of the things that's fundamental to my campaign is improving our scientific instrumentation so that there are no radar gaps. The only reason that I've been in international press, national press, almost every single day for a year was because something awful happened to me. I was working for the Florida Department of Health. I managed all of our public data systems, and I was asked to do something that was unethical and illegal. And I said no. I didn't flinch, I just said no. And I had no idea that that single action would take me to where I am now. I never imagined I'd run for office. I never imagined I'd do pretty much anything super involved with politics. I think I had bumper stickers, and that was about the extent of my political involvement. And everything changed overnight. I was told that I had 4 days to resign in lieu of termination. And on day 2, the governor of my state was in front of the vice president of my country defaming me. I had not gone publicly about what had happened. I hadn't done any interviews. I was hiding. I was in hiding. And yet my name, my face was thrown on every news station in the country, and it didn't just go away. It stayed like that. And I found myself almost in an upside-down world. I had no idea why. I was naive in thinking that the government had the best interests of the people in mind, and it didn't. And I decided that instead of wallowing in self-pity, I'd fight back. And that's what I did. And so I became the most trusted source of information about COVID-19 in the state of Florida for 1.5 years, and ran my own data operations, including a national tracking system for schools. And when I found too much success in that, when people trusted me more than they did the governor or the Department of Health, I woke up one morning to a bang on my door. And police had showed up, surrounded the house, about a dozen officers, armed, guns drawn, and pointed a gun in my face and told me to open the door. They didn't have a warrant. I asked them 3 times if I could see the warrant, and I was told it was on the way. And in the United States of America, you don't raid somebody's house unless you have a warrant in hand. I had no right to say they didn't have any right to look where they were looking. I had no right to call a lawyer to come and say, you are only allowed to look under the scope of this warrant, because it wasn't there. We had no rights. We sat in my living room, my husband, me, and our 2 kids, held hostage at gunpoint for 3 hours while they waited for a warrant, while they ransacked our house. And there was nothing we could do about it. And so, like every other time in my life, I didn't wait very long before I fought back. I shared the video to the world, and I made sure that from that day on, because I tried not to be political, but politics didn't want to leave me alone, I do everything in my power to make sure that corrupt government and government abuse stopped. As much as I could stop of it, that's what I'm going to do. Because to have that power is a responsibility and a duty. To abuse it is to violate the principles of democracy itself. To use all the weight of the state to target one scientist because she makes you look bad is abhorrent. And I feel like if I keep talking about that, I might get angry and upset. Because there's the fighter that everyone saw on the news, and then there was the mother that, after the camera's off, found her son sleeping in the hallway outside her bedroom door because he was afraid that tomorrow he was going to wake up and they'd be back and shoot him. Who saw her 11-year-old son struggle with being afraid of everything and everyone for over a year, and hoping that my daughter was too young for that to have made any meaningful impact, but also knowing better. And no parent should ever be in the position that my husband and I were put in. And I think there would be something wrong with me as a person if that didn't make me angry, if that didn't make me seek justice. And so that's how that part of this journey started. But it's become so much more than that. And I don't think if I didn't have the support in Florida that I had, I'd still be here. Because there was no guarantee when I came forward that anybody would believe me or that anybody would care. I put my career, my future that I had worked so hard for, full scholarship to Syracuse from South Mississippi, the 15th poorest county in the country. And it was all a gamble because I felt I had an obligation to make sure people had information that they were entitled to. What decisions they made, that wasn't up to me, but they had the right to know, so they were making informed decisions. And I put everything on the line. And they had my back. So now I've got theirs. I'm Rebekah Jones, and I approve this message.